Carter should cut me a check for this. How do you know when to let go? Another one of those questions that I don't feel like I would ever truly find an answer to. I feel like this question applies both to art but just to life experiences as well. I can remember at a very young age seeing that photo. I feel like most people would have seen it. The photo of the guy like digging, and he's like mining for diamonds, and eventually he turns around when there's like a layer of dirt between him and the diamonds. Keep persisting, keep going, never give up. But I feel like a lot of scenarios that I've experienced recently have taught me that there is a time to let go and step away. Earlier this year, I feel like I experienced the biggest series of failures, moments where I had to accept that this isn't working. Staying here and persisting is doing more damage to me than if I just up and left, or at least went back to the drawing board and tried to figure out why this didn't work and how to make it work or how to correct for my errors. They left me frustrated. That was actually on the cusp of me slipping into a burnout that I've probably already referenced a few times. What it did remind me of is that there is a time for everything, a time to persist and a time to lay your arms down, to raise the white flag and accept you got it wrong. And I found that in relationships as well, not purely romantic relationships, but just relationships in general, accepting that trying to force something to happen in a lot of scenarios does more damage than just letting it play its course. There's this famous saying that no art is ever finished, it's only abandoned. I feel like that is another perfect example of a scenario where you have to gauge when to let go. As someone who plays around with varied mediums, I find that there are a lot of mediums that don't really let you know when you're done. There are a lot of concepts you play with that you just can always make it better. Realistically, our abilities are never perfect, so there is always something we could have improved on. And particularly with painting and illustrations, I find this. There is a point you get to where you look at it and you go, that is good enough. And sometimes that feels counterintuitive to someone who wants to be as close to perfect as possible. Good enough feels lazy to me. I grew up in a family that always pushed you to put 120%. That is really good to some degree, but I suppose it's what has got me to push myself to the extent that I'm at, so I can give a lot of credit to that, and my mom and my sisters and my dad, I suppose. At this point I'll just list off everyone. But with illustration pieces, I find that I get to a point and I realize that I could keep tinkering with it, and the danger of carrying on tinkering with it is you may push it over the edge to where you've overdone the highlights or you've overdone the shadows and you've kind of ruined the piece or you've made it even less desirable than it was. It's taught me a lot about getting to a place and being satisfied and being able to leave and hopefully having learned something about how far you can push a piece of work. And I suppose this also comes with being in tune with yourself and your style and how you create. I feel like if you don't know how you create and you don't know how you work, it's hard to know when you get to that point. But as someone who spends an extended, probably unhealthy amount of time in my head, I'm pretty aware as to where that line is. This is a challenge to you. Let go. Leave it alone. Get over it. Move on to the next thing. I mean, this could be bad advice depending on where you are, but I'll leave you to judge for that. If you enjoyed or you relate with anything I've said, it'd be much appreciated if you share, because we are living this real life.